And hello again. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you find yourself. Hey. We're in another week of fasting, a 72-hour fast. That's what we're doing. And right now, we are a little over 50 hours in this fast. And one of the questions I get is, well, I just don't seem to be able to make any more progress. I lost some weight. My blood sugars got better. My A1C went down, but it seems like I'm stuck. I'm on that plateau. How do I get off? Why am I here? How did it happen? And what do I do about it? And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. How do we move through that plateau on this episode? Hey, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, get off of medications, who want to reverse their diabetes. That's what we do. That's what we've been doing. New year, new you. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that we are happy that you are here. Also, if you have questions as we go throughout the show, make sure you drop those in the comments, and we will be sure to get to those as we move through our discussion. And you know how we do. Well, you knew how we do, but for some reason my Dexcom did not show up. But we normally look at my numbers and my report. So let's go ahead and get that back over. uh, let's see. And we'll take a look at what my meters are showing. So I have those off to the side, and I've got my Dexcom Clarity app report that is right there. There we go. Okay. And so we'll take a look at that, see what my numbers are as we've been fasting, and then we will go through the show. Let me go ahead and say hello. I saw at least a couple of people that were out there. Just want to give some shout outs. Let me go ahead and pull it up by this screen. So Jennifer is out there. She said, howdy all. And of course, I said, hello, Jennifer. And then the light works. Hi, Jen. Hello, all. Hey, glad that you are all here. Glad that you guys are hanging out with us on this episode. And, you know, as we move into the show, one of the things that I always try to do is to do a check-in. A check-in, because as we're fasting, and in fact, not just fasting, right? Let me back up a little bit and make this kind of general. Anytime you are doing anything that you want to change, anytime you're trying to do some self improvement, anytime you are trying to do a project, then you need to check in to find out with yourself, with the team, with whoever, well, how are things going? And in this space, we do three components of our check in, and that is how are we feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. Because these are the places where people tend to have the most difficulty. There's some other things that we can talk about, some nuances, but generally speaking, this is it. And so physically, mentally, and emotionally, how are we doing? Let's set the backdrop, okay? Why are we fasting? Because people say, well, what are we talking about fasting? Physically, mentally, and emotionally. So in this space, New Year, New You, the whole idea there is that we are working on reversing diabetes, putting diabetes in remission, getting people off of diabetes medications. And one of the tools that we've learned is the tool of fasting. There are several that we have, and you'll see those, some of those listed here. Not an exhaustive list of the things that we've done, but for some of the general ones. But you'll see there at number 2, fasting, and we introduced fasting very early on in the pathway, because we knew that fasting was an amazing, powerful tool that we could use for helping to reverse diabetes. Why is fasting so important, and why is it so powerful? Because it hits all 3 of the pillars of reversing diabetes. Remember, the pillars are decrease insulin, suppress the appetite, and reduce sugar. Decrease insulin, suppress appetite, reduce sugar. So if you're fasting, by virtue of the fact that you're not putting anything in, you're also not putting in any sugar, no carbs. And so the sugar level goes down. As a result of that, you don't have to take any extra insulin or as much insulin if you're taking insulin from outside, exogenous, or the body doesn't have to create that much endogenous insulin. So the insulin level goes down. That's two pillars. And when the insulin goes down, because it is an appetite stimulant, decreasing insulin suppresses the appetite or reduces the appetite. So fasting hits all three pillars of reversing diabetes. That's why fasting is such a powerful tool that we've been using in this space to help with reversing diabetes. And so we want to know, how do we fast properly? On the YouTube channel, there is a playlist that's called How to Fast Successfully. Yes. There's also one called How to Reverse Diabetes. And they go hand in hand. And so in this space, we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to be able to fast successfully so we can get all the benefits that go along with fasting. Decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and reduce sugar. Decrease insulin, suppress appetite, reduce sugar. And so that's why we're doing fasting. And in this space, we've been doing a 72-hour fast once a week. We've challenged you to do a 24-hour fast. We'll talk more about that today or later in this show. And then, of course, on tomorrow, we do a complete deep dive. Every Friday, we do a deep dive into fasting. So if you are out there and you want to know more about fasting, there are the shows that we've done in the past as we've been reviewing that. But come on tomorrow. You can ask questions. We're there. We do a 3-segment, really, how to prepare for a fast, how to make it through a fast successfully, and then how to break a fast successfully. Because all 3 phases are just as important as the others. Because if you don't do well in one of those phases, it sets the entire thing at jeopardy. Okay, so how am I feeling physically? When we talk about physically, often this is talking about energy level. How are people feeling in terms of their energy level? Are they feeling sluggish? Are they feeling weak? Are they feeling tired? And I have to admit, feeling a little bit more tired than normal. But as I explained last night, or the last couple of times that we've been here, that this week I've not done a great job of resting. I got a little bit more rest last night, but still feeling more tired than normal. Okay. The other thing today is I was actually in the kitchen making some curry chicken for my son. So I'm there cutting up the chicken, got it seasoned, and I was bent over for most of that time, right? Cutting the chicken and seasoning and doing all that. And when I raised up, for a brief moment, I felt a little bit woozy. Okay, and so 2 things come to mind. One, resting, right, which I mentioned that I've not been doing a great job of doing. So that shows up in the fast. And then also hydration, right? I think I've been doing a good job of hydrating, but apparently I'm not, because when I made that move, right, I felt for just a brief moment, I was like, wait, what just happened? Okay? And so, of course, now I'm chugging. I've got my cup here. So physically, the other thing that people will feel is they will feel palpitations, feel like the heart's racing, skipping a beat. Lightheadedness, as I just mentioned, dizziness. Also feel jittery, right? And this is particularly for people who are prone to hypoglycemia or people who are on medications, where the medication is causing the blood sugar to go down further. Then they can feel those symptoms, right? So physically, that's how I'm feeling right now. How am I feeling mentally? Well, I think I'm usually the mental goes right along with the physical. And surprisingly, I feel much sharper mentally compared to what I would expect for my physical state. I'm not feeling sluggish in my thought process. I'm not feeling delayed. I'm able to speak properly, went through the day, and feel pretty sharp. So I'm coming to the end of the day, so I'm going to be going to sleep here pretty soon. But for the most part, this has been a pretty good day mentally. And then, of course, emotionally, some ups and downs this week. I mentioned that I was excited because some things happened earlier this week that we were expecting, that we were looking for, that we were preparing for. And so, there's all this energy that's there. I think part of me getting through the lack of sleep and part of me getting through the kind of fatigue that I'm feeling there is because I'm pumped, right? So I've got all this energy that comes from the excitement about these things that are going on, and we're working on a new series that we've been doing, and that's going well, and so I'm just doing well in terms of my emotions. So whenever you're working on anything, whenever you want to improve anything, whenever you want to check anything, whenever you want to change anything, then we want to make sure that you are doing a good job, and you want to make sure that you are that you're checking in, and those are the things physically, mentally, and emotionally. Okay? All right, so let's hop over and let's take a look at blood sugars. And for this, let's first look at what my Freestyle Libre is showing. And so Freestyle Libre right now is saying that my blood sugar is 83. You'll see down there at the bottom, or close to the bottom, right above the times, 12, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m. You'll see that gray bar, and so that's the blood sugar range. And I've set mine to from 70 to 180. 70 to 150, because I want to know before 180, which is what it's typically set to at. I want to know before that what my blood sugars are, right? So right now, 70 to 150 is where I am. And then you'll see that for most of the day, my blood sugar has been right at about 100 or below 100. It hasn't quite gotten to 70, which is the dashed line that you see there, the dashed red line that you see there down at the bottom. And then let's go over and let's take a look at, this is my Dexcom. This is G7. And similarly, you'll see that we've been kind of hanging. And let me go ahead. This one I can actually put my finger on, and you'll see those numbers as they come up. And so for this afternoon, blood sugars have been in the 80s for the most part. There was one there where it popped up to 114. And this is all, I guess at that time at 5 p.m. So right now we're about 50 hours into the fast. Okay, and this is the last 12 hours. If I make that 24 hours, we'll kind of see what that is. Let's go back. All right, so it doesn't look like I've gone over. Let me see, what's the highest that I see there? There's a one. I think I saw 107. 107 there early in the right there, 107. And then right here, I think that was a higher one. No, it's 103. And then over here, another spike to 118. And I'm scrolling through. I think this one over here, the 118, was probably the highest that I've gone in the last 24 hours. And of course, you should be asking some interesting questions, right? And so one of the questions that people ask is, hey, if you're fasting, why isn't your blood sugar lower? Right? So I'm fasting. So why isn't the blood sugar lower? And lots of different conversations that we can have around that. But one of the reasons is that my body still has the ability to make sugar. So even though I'm not eating, I'm not ingesting anything, the fat in my body, which is being turned to ketones, as part of that breaking of the fat, there is this thing called glycerol that the body has, and that glycerol can be converted to fat. And so that's why I'm not zero, or that's why it's not lower. All right, and so now let's hop over and let's take a look at what my meters are going to be saying. So we have the Dexcom, we have the Libre, and here I have my Dexcom, my Contour, and my Keto Mojo, and we'll take a look at those. Let's go ahead and grab a strip. Actually, let's change our scene. Let's take a look at this one. So grab one of the strips for my Contour. We'll get that one in here. And these are the strips, the glucose strip, and then of course the ketone strip. So we'll start with this one, but I'm going to open both of them, because remember the last couple of times I've had to prick my finger several times, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to do that, get that set up, and then go ahead and open this so it's just ready, so that when we get that drop of blood, we can just pop it in. Okay? All right. And then let's go to our handy dandy little tray, Let's grab a couple of these lancets. Uh, I'll grab these. And these are similar ones. You know, they're different brands, but they work basically the same. You take the lancet and you basically screw the top off. And once you do that, it reveals the lancet, which I don't know if you could see it. Let me do this. Okay, maybe that's a little better. See the little needle? Okay. And then I'm going to I don't use the lancing device, which this goes into. I'm just going to go ahead and poke my finger. And this one is a lot finer than the other, and so it hurts more, by the way. Let me make sure. Let's see if I got, I got a good drop. So the bigger, the thicker they are, the less they tend to hurt, which a lot of people find weird because you would expect the bigger ones to hurt more, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get this drop of blood. And so you see there, my Keto Mojo says I'm 87. Contour says I'm 83. And then, of course, on the screen, you'll see my Dexcom says 91. And then let's go ahead and let's get this strip out. Get the ketone strip in. And what do you think my ketones are going to be, right? So after 50 hours of fasting, get that one going. So after fasting for 50 hours, what do you think my ketones are going to be? And so we got that going. And of course, I'm not going to show it to you because I'm going to tease you. And we'll come back to that here in just a little while. But if you think you know, go ahead and pop that in the comments. All right. And so so Lightwork says, this is a timely topic. Wow, I feel like I hit a plateau, but then again, I was working 16 hours for about a month on the graveyard shift. Okay, yeah, I like the thought process that you're going through, kind of trying to figure out what's happening. Okay, trying to figure out what's happening there, and so so we're talking about plateaus. Sometimes you are going along, and things seem to be working, and we have people who come to the office. Just saw someone today who had gone from over 300 down now into the 200s in terms of weight, and was kind of concerned that the weight loss had slowed, and so kind of thinking, okay, what is going on? And sometimes it seems as though you're climbing up that mountain, you're climbing the hill, right? You're scaling and you're doing well, and then all of a sudden you can't seem to go anymore, right? Almost like you hit a ceiling, or you hit that space where things are just staying. Well, there are several things that we'll talk about, but before we even get to those, the question that we want to ask, and this goes back to when we talked about our figuring out our why, what are you doing? Why are you doing the fasting? In our space, we are fasting because we are trying to reverse diabetes. That's our goal. We're taking our diabetes and we're putting it in remission. We're removing ourselves, or not removing ourselves, we're decreasing the amount of insulin we're on. We are changing our metabolic trajectory, right? So that's what we're doing here in this space. If you're fasting, the question you're asking is, what is my goal? So if it's a weight goal and you've hit a plateau, that's the concepts we're going to talk about are the same, but there may be a slightly different thing that you've got to do. If you are working on managing blood sugars, or you're working on decreasing your A1C, or you're working on blood pressure, or high cholesterol, or fatty liver, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, the general concepts are the same. But the question is, what are you doing? Because we got to track what you're doing so that we can know, okay, what do we need to tweak to get there, right? So that's the first thing. Before we even talk about what may cause it, that's the first thing. So that's one. Number two, what is a plateau, right? What does that mean? And so when we talk about plateaus, what we typically mean is that we've been moving through a particular space. Our weight's been going down, or our blood sugars have been getting better, or our high blood pressure has been getting better, or any of those things are getting better, and then all of a sudden, or gradually, we seem to not be able to get past that anymore. If you guys remember, and this was now maybe 3-4 months ago. So we had been doing the 72-hour fast, right? We've been going through that. We've done it for several weeks, several months actually. And then one week I did a 96-hour fast. And people say, well, why did you do a 96-hour? Well, I was changing some things. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But I noticed that there was something not quite keeping up with the pace that I expected, and so I changed that up. Okay. So all right. So back to our conversation. Well, what causes? So that's what the plateau is. That's how we begin getting into the plateau. What is the why, right? And understanding what a plateau is, because the plateau is different depending on what you are shooting for, right? I have a weight plateau. You may have a blood sugar plateau. Someone else may have a plateau with something else. So what is the what is it that we're looking for? And then, so how do we overcome? So what causes a fasting plateau? And once again, this is specific to your thing, right? Here we're talking about fasting as it relates to blood sugar. So one is metabolic adaptation. Metabolic adaptation. So what does that mean? That means that as we fast, the body kind of almost gets used to what we're doing. So your body has become efficient now. So before, when you went into a fasting state, the body saw those ketones and it sucked them up, right? And it ran with them. The body now can become very efficient at now burning that. And so you start fasting and it quickly switches over to fat burning, right? Quickly switches over fat burning. And it does it so efficiently that it doesn't have to burn as much fat to get the energy that it needs. Does that make sense? So that we're continuing to go into ketosis. We're continuing to burn fat, but because the body has become so adapted at burning ketones, that it doesn't need to take as much fat to get the ketones it needs to run the body anymore. So metabolic adaptation. The next thing is stress hormones. And I think Lightworks was talking about the graveyard shift and all of those. Remember, hormones play a significant role in what goes on in our bodies during fasting. So that if there is a lot of stress, if we are, for instance, working the graveyard shift, or one of the things that I've mentioned as I talk about fasting, preparing for the fast, is making sure that you're not coming out of or going into a stressful environment. You know why that is? Because those stress hormones will keep blood sugar higher than it needs to be during a fast. And so during that process, the body is because the blood sugars are higher, the insulin also has to be higher, right? So if insulin is higher, the glucagon is lower. And so the insulin, elevated insulin, if you remember from one of our shows in the past, elevated insulin dysregulates satiety, dysregulates hunger, dysregulates fat burning. So elevated insulin throws that all off. So there are times when everything else is going perfectly, but because we're under stress, and remember there are two components to stress, it is the body preparing for energy, that's epinephrine, and then the body going and finding energy, that's cortisol, and so it keeps it higher, keeps blood sugar higher than we would expect them to be, and so as a result of that, it looks like we're at a plateau because the insulin that's there is causing dysregulation of a lot of the different hormones. So when our body is adapted, the other, because of stresses, our hormones are dysregulated because of elevated insulin. All right. Another reason for plateaus is overeating during our eating window. One of the things that we talk about all the time, and we'll talk about this tomorrow when we do our when we do our deep dive into fasting, one of the things we talk about is what do we do to break the fast? I'll tell you, for me, let me tell. I'm always telling on myself. So if I'm not careful, during the eating window, I will overeat. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with my wife was it last week or week before? I think I may have mentioned it to you here. Because I'm going through the fast and everything seems to be going well, right? So we're fasting 72 hours once a week and blah blah blah, and all that's happening, and blood sugars are better, A1C is improving, weight's going down, and we're hitting those markers. But the heat model says, yeah. The heat model says that there are some things that other than hunger that can cause me to eat. And one of the things that we've got to be careful of is this idea of scarcity. Scarcity. Let's talk a little bit about that. Scarcity says that I'm not going to get any more of this. I don't know when it's coming back. It's kind of like, for me, and let me throw it out there so you guys can help me through this. Okay, it's coming. I know it's coming. It happens every year, and I need a way to manage it. My dad made the best eggnog in the world. Yes, he did. And I'm not talking about spiked eggnog. I'm talking about just non-alcoholic. Now, if you put alcohol, that's a whole nother conversation, right? I'm talking about eggnog. And so he made eggnog like you would not believe, out of this world. And so my dad has passed on, right? I still love eggnog. Not as much as Ben and Jerry's ice cream, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's a tie. But I still love eggnog. And so Christmas is coming around. And what do you think they do as we get into that season, right? Eggnog starts showing up. Now, when I say eggnog, I like eggnog. I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up watching Miracle on 34th Street. I grew up watching the Gimbals and the Macy's. I grew up going down to Woolworths when I was a kid, right? So all the Christmas things that people talk about that you see on TV, that was my experience growing up as a kid. And surrounding all of that was the smells of the people talk about chestnuts roasting on open fire, right? All those smells, and the cotton candy and the caramel candy and the caramel popcorn, and mixed into all of that is eggnog, right? So you see how I described it, and I didn't even have to think about it. That's how vividly those memories are there. And so coming up to Christmas, that season, eggnog shows up. And in my mind, I don't know when eggnog's coming back. As a matter of fact, it's not coming back till next year. And so there are times I go to the grocery store, this is ridiculous, right? So I'll go to the grocery store on the 26th. And all the eggnog's gone. And so I'll say to the guy, what happened to the eggnog? He said, well, it's Christmas is over. I was like, are you kidding me? You got rid of the eggnog? I think eggnog should be there the whole time. But I don't know when it's coming back. And so in my mind, I got to get it all. And I remember one year, y'all, I showed up at home and my wife was like, what's going on? Like, I think I had gone and I bought every brand of eggnog, like 2, 3, 4. The refrigerator was full of eggnog. So the scarcity mentality says, I don't know when I'm going to have this again. So as you're coming out of the fast, you're anticipating, if you're not careful, you're anticipating going back into a fast coming up soon. And because I'm doing a 72 hours fast, right, my fasting window, or my eating window, is short. And my fasting window, this chair is just driving me crazy. My fasting window is 72 hours. And so if I'm not careful, if I allow that mentation to continue, I find myself overeating during the eating window. Or there's that thing that you were thinking about while you were fasting, about how it's going to taste when you finally get it. And so fasting is over now, and you get into your eating window and you go full force. So overeating during our eating window can cause us to have a can cause us to have a plateau. And I'm looking out. I see Jennifer says, "I love eggnog. We make it fresh with our." Oh, Jennifer! Every time you put something in the chat, it just like, I yeah, we gotta make a trip. All right, and then the next thing is nutrient deficiencies. Nutrient deficiencies, and this goes back to the eating window. You hear me say, as we talk about fasting, that preparing for the fast involves eating nutrient-dense foods. And so what you're doing in that case is you're making sure that you're supplying the body with everything that it needs so that when you start fasting, you don't experience any deficiencies that then short circuit the process. So the body uses carbohydrates for energy. When it switches over, it uses ketones for energy. But there are other systems in the body that require other minerals and vitamins that are in our body. And so if we don't do a good job during our eating window of supplying those, now when we get into the fasting window, the body has to conserve energy. So the metabolism slows down. And because the metabolism slows down, we hit that plateau. Okay? We hit that plateau. Now, a couple of things, and let me just hop in here and let me throw this in. This whole idea of metabolism slowing down is a big concept, and we probably need to come back and do a whole show on it. But the whole idea behind metabolism slowing down is that if I give the body less energy in terms of eating, the body is not going to keep running at the same pace. And so it slows the metabolism to compensate for the fact that we're putting less food in. Make sense so far? In the process of fasting, though, we're just not really backing off of food, right? We're not decreasing the amount of food. We're stopping food altogether. And so when we're doing the reducing calories, all right, we say you should decrease calories by 500 per day to lose weight. When we're talking about decreasing calories, you're still eating, and so the body is still getting some calories, and it knows that it's getting calories, but you've decreased the amount of calories that you are putting in, and so the body adapts to it by decreasing the metabolism to compensate for that difference. That's when we're decreasing calories. In fasting, I'm not putting anything in. So the body doesn't know when more food is coming, and so it has to go and find food. So it doesn't slow the metabolism as a result in the long term. I mean, initially it does, but it doesn't slow the metabolism. What it does is actually it revs the metabolism up so that it could go start burning fat quickly. You see the difference? That's why fasting, when you're fasting, you actually lose more weight and lose weight faster than if you just cut the calories. That's the beauty of fasting. That's one of the benefits of fasting. That's one of the selling points of fasting. One of the things that people will notice if they are cutting calories and the body is slowing the metabolism is people will notice that they feel colder, almost like a cold intolerance, right? Because the metabolism is going down. It's not generating as much heat. But anyway, like I said, that's a whole conversation, and we probably need to do a show where we just simply talk about this change in metabolism that can happen, and the differences between fasting and what happens there, and when we're just simply cutting calories. So the next thing that can cause plateaus, nutrient deficiencies. And then habitual fasting patterns. And this gets back to what I mentioned before. When I was fasting for 72 hours and I noticed that I had some plateaus, right? So things had moved. If you remember back in, was it March of this year when we hit our weight plateau, and then we hit our A1C not plateau. We hit our weight goal, then we hit our A1C goal, and we shared all of our labs. Well, I think it was soon after that, I noticed that my weight would fluctuate up and down more than I wanted, and that the weight was not continuing to come off like I wanted. And so that's when I did that 96 hour, that 1 week, if you guys remember. We did a 96. I think we did that 2 weeks, and then we went back to the 72 hour. So habitual fasting patterns. So if you are going through the process and you're fasting, right? And this kind of relates back to the metabolic adaptation. Your body has gotten so efficient at doing this that fasting pattern, you may need to break it a little bit. And of course, I'm telling you the plan, which is going to be on the next. But yeah, so you might have to change that up a little bit. So let's hop over there and let's talk about that part. So what are some strategies to break the plateau, right? So number one, switch up your fasting routine, which is what I was just talking about. And so for me, I switched it to 96 hours. I have not done recently a shorter fast. If you remember, I think we traveled to Tampa one month. It was our anniversary, my son's birthday, and I think that week we did a 48-hour fast. But for the most part, I've been doing 72 hours when I'm fasting, and in my non-fasting window is actually a fast, right? Because I typically could do a 16/8 anyway. So I'm fasting most of the time, but I consider my fasting to be the 72 hour, which I do once a week. But in my non-fasting time, I still am doing an intermittent fasting. Okay, so number one, you want to switch up your fasting routine. The next thing is to increase your physical activity. Now, we've said that you get a bigger bang for your buck in the kitchen than you do in the gym. What does that mean? That means that if we're working on, if we're doing calorie for calorie, not eating the thing in the first place is a better option than eating it and then say I'm going to burn it off. If you eat a cookie, 300 calories, and you walk about an hour, 1 hour, right? So if you do like a 20-minute mile, that's 3 miles in an hour, then you'll burn one cookie. That's it. 1 hour for one cookie. And most of us don't just eat one cookie. And most of us don't drink just one glass of eggnog. So if I'm talking about using exercise to offset the eggnog, I'm going to be in the gym forever. Okay? So adding some activity, great, because it does help to burn some calories. But I don't want you relying on physical activity alone to do the things that we need, right? So we got to balance both of them. And we're coming back to that in just a minute. All right. The next one is optimize your nutrient intake. Right? So this is actually where it is. So nutrient intake. Make sure that you are eating nutrient-dense meals, not necessarily calorie dense. And nutrient dense means it has all the vitamins and minerals and fiber, and it's low glycemic index, all those things, right? The good meal that we talked about. And actually, why don't I go ahead and pop that up on the screen? This was the meal that we talked about doing, right? This is the prototypic meal that we want. So whole foods, minimize processing, no added sugar, starchy and non-starchy vegetables. We wanted those mixed. Healthy fats, lean protein. We want it to be tasty, and we want the appropriate portion sizes. Right? So that is the meal. When we talk about the meal that you should be eating, that's the meal right there. Now notice, and what I love about this, I was sharing with somebody just today. In there, there's nothing that tells you what to eat. It is not a prescription for food. It's a prescription for the meal. So as you're putting your meal together, you want the meal to the food that you're putting in the meal to fit into the parameters that you see there. So it's not okay, you can eat white rice and you can't eat this rice and you can't eat that kind of potato and you can't eat this or you should eat that. That's not what this is. But it's saying that as you're putting that meal together, you will make some of those decisions. But your starch may be totally different from my kind of starch. Your protein is different from my protein. It gives leeway for you to be able to put the things you like into it, but keeping in mind that this is the structure of the type of food or the type of meal that we want you to be having. Okay? All right. So optimize nutrient intake. Boom. And then mindful eating. Mindful eating. Mindful eating means that you're sitting, you're present with the food, you're not watching TV while you're eating, not doing a puzzle while you're eating, not on the phone while you're eating. Because when you do those things while you're eating, you eat more. Yep. You eat more than you should. Because it's just mindlessly going in. So be mindful. And then stress management, right? This is a big one. Well, they're all big ones, but this is huge because we spent some time talking about this just a little while ago. If you're in a stressful environment, if you're coming out of, going into stressful environment, in a stressful environment, your body's producing hormones, and those hormones can dysregulate the hormones that we're using to help in this process. Cortisol, for example, epinephrine, insulin. So managing stress helps you get beyond the plateau. And one that's not there that I'm going to throw in, right, that comes from our check-in and our preparation for fasting and our getting through the fasting and breaking fasting, hydration. Hydration, hydration, hydration. Hydration is important. Because when you're hydrated, all of the mechanisms within your body have the appropriate amount of hydration, lubrication, volume, fluid to work. Enzymes that are in your body, hormones that are in your body. Your blood has to move around to take nutrients and to remove toxins. Your hormones in your body have to move. And if you're not hydrated well, then it interrupts or blunts or makes that process sluggish. So make sure that you're hydrating. That helps you get through the plateau. And then I guess the last thought is to understand, just like we said, what is our why at the beginning? One thing to understand is that you're going to have a plateau. It's not a matter of if, it actually is a matter of when. And so what we want to do is we want to put in place mechanisms that we can turn to that put us back in the saddle, if you will. So say, okay, I'm going to have a plateau. When I have a plateau, what am I going to do? And what you need to do is just like we talked about, right? Go through the process. Okay, what is it? Where is it? Which of these things could possibly be going on? And then let's use our list. Let's use our list to kind of process and break through the plateau. If we do that, then we will be successful. All right, all right, all right. Love it, love it, love it. This is a great conversation, great topic because it affects us all. And don't I don't want you to think that you are by yourself out there and you're the only one that runs into these issues. No, we all do. I do, as I mentioned before, as mentioned that I do when I extended my fast. Right? That's why the community is so important because it helps us to know that we're not by ourselves. All right, let's go ahead and let's take a look at my um, Dexcom Clarity. Dexcom Clarity report. We'll come back here in a minute to look at what my ketones are. And I think I saw somebody who put a guess in there. So we'll come back and take a look at this in just a minute. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at my report that you see there. And let's grab, I like this view. I think I need to create a different view with this one in it. But anyway, there we are. And so, if you see on the screen that my average blood sugar over the last 2 weeks has been, last 14 days, 126. I'm in target 93% of the time. Target being anywhere from 70 to 180. My glucose management indicator is 6.3. So if I were to get an A1C, it would approximate that, right? So I was explaining this actually to this week to someone that it is a calculated number, right? So it should approximate it. It can be off, but the true A1C is actually when we get the blood and we put it in the machine, and the machine tells us, okay, this is what the A1C is. But I should be getting results of my blood work here coming up pretty soon, and we'll share those with you so we could see what the A1C is compared to what we've been seeing here on the report. And then, so if I change now to 90 days, my A1C, my average blood sugar I think is higher. It's 135 for the last 90 days. So A1C is 6.5, or glucose management indicator, sorry. I'm in target 86%, which is from 70 to 180. Okay. And then let's go ahead and take a look at our graphs for the last several days. And I'll tell you, I'm actually pretty proud of this past week, and because I'm going to go back to what happened on Friday. So Friday we broke the fast right in here, right? And so 8, and you'll see there blood sugar kind of climbs, goes up, 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 right? So we got up to, I think, 120? Okay, 125 was the highest there. And then continuing on into Saturday, right? So look at that. I mean, we were in the 104, 105, 110s, and I think here got up to 137, and then 138, 143 was the highest that we got there. And then Sunday, look at these numbers. Wow, I love this. 130, 120, 119. And all this time, I'm eating, right? This is not fasting. This is eating. All right, 120. And then down into 90s as we got into the evening. And then on Monday, coming into the day, still staying those same numbers. And then look at this, y'all. You know what that is? That's a salad. Yes, a salad. And the salad took me up to what, 158, 173. Look at that. That I did not expect. Now, it was a huge salad, by the way. I maybe, I should have known. It was not a baby salad. It was, it was a pretty sizable salad. And then came back down for the rest of that day. And then, 150s, 140s, 140s. And then lunch again. And this time went up to 199. Now, I'll tell you here, actually, let me see. Where was this? I think this one, hold on, let me back up. Yeah, so yeah, okay, now I know what I'm saying. So right here, compared to that, so this was actually a piece of cake. That was a piece of cake. That was coconut cake, right? And that took me there, and then came back down. Now that had icing on it, and then I want you to compare that to these numbers, right? So I came down. So before the cake, I was like 130s, 125. So go up to 197. Let's just make it 200 to make the math easy. So I went from 125 over here to 200, right? So that is a 75-point rise in blood sugar. Okay, makes sense? All right. And then here I was 92, let's say 95, right? To make the math easy. So 95. And I ate a half a hamburger and like 6, Five Guy fries. And I went from a 95 up to 204. You guys see that? So the cake and icing compared to hamburger and fries. And people will say that, oh, the cake should raise the blood sugar higher, but look at that. The hamburger and fries that did similar things. I'm not, not necessarily comparing to say which one is better, but they did similar things. So carbs will raise your blood sugar. It doesn't matter where the carbs come from, I guess is the point I was making there. Okay, and then, so we started fasting right here Tuesday evening. And then 24 hours later, we're 103, 109. And then 24 hours after that, right? So we're 48 hours, we're in the 90s. And then it will be interesting to see what my blood sugars are or what my numbers are when we do our check-in tomorrow at 72 hours. Yeah. I love this. Exciting. So if you're out there and you're fasting, how long have you been fasting? Okay. How long have you been fasting? All right. So Jennifer said, I needed to hear tonight's topic. This hits close to home. Oh, well, great, Jennifer. I'm glad. And it's a thing that we all kind of go through. Okay, it's a thing that we all kind of go through. And one of the things, Jennifer, it is that sometimes we think we're alone, right? That nobody else is experiencing it, but that's not true. If you're on this path, right? If you're in this process, you're experiencing it. And so it's great to have people to know that, yeah, it's not just you doing it. Awesome. All right, so let's take a look at my ketones, right? What do you think my ketones are? What do you think of ketones? I think I saw somebody says, Jennifer says 2.1. Jennifer, you're guessing. Yay! I love that. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me pull over. Let me pull up my Keto Mojo app. And so here's my meter. So go ahead and turn that on. And we'll see the Keto Mojo will sync here in just a minute. We'll get it to sync for us. So 2.1 is what Jennifer says. And I think my ketones were, what was it, 0.7 or 0.8 yesterday? We'll go back and look at that in just a minute. That was at 27 hours. And drum roll, it is 1.2. 1.2. So my blood sugar is 87 and 1.2, that's my ketones. And if I go back and look at, well, let's do it this way. If I look at where we were yesterday when I checked in, right? So on Monday, when I wasn't fasting, my blood sugar was 100 and my ketones were 0.2, right? And then when I started fasting, we were 27 hours in, and I checked then, my ketones were 0.6 with blood sugars of 101. And then tonight, we have blood sugars of 87 and ketones 1.2. So when we talk about ketones, let's look at our graph. The turquoise line that you see there, those are ketones. and then the tan line, that's blood sugar. So as when I broke the fast last week, as I started eating, the blood sugar goes up, the tan line, and the ketones go down, the turquoise line, right? Because they can't. So so insulin and ketones can't be in the same space. So when I'm eating, my blood sugars are going up because I'm eating carbs. Insulin has to come out. When insulin comes out, ketones go down. So insulin goes up, ketones go down. And as I started fasting, right, you'll notice there that my blood sugars are coming down and then the ketones are going up. And that's what you see at the left. Let's see if I can do that a little better. That's what you see there at the left part of the graph. Right, the ketones now are higher than the glucose because they're going up as the blood sugar is coming down. And when we talk about ketones, ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. So if we're talking about the benefits of fasting, fat burning, insulin sensitivity, and all those types of things, we want ketones that are 0.5 or higher, because that means that our body is burning fat and converting it to ketones, particularly if we're talking about weight loss, right? Weight loss and blood sugar management. Yeah. All right. So that's beautiful. And I love when I see ketones because that means that I am burning fat. Yes. Burning fat. So if you're out there, you like ketones. Remember, we're talking to adults with type 2 diabetes. Those are the folks that we're talking about as we're moving through this space. There's a whole conversation to be had for people who have type 1 diabetes, right? Because there are some specific things that we need to do with you. Not that you can't fast, but you've got to be a little bit more careful in how you do it, right? And if you want to hear more about that, just send me a message and we can talk about that. But here specifically, we're talking about type 2 diabetes. All right. So as we move into this space, we are now looking at what do we do with when we hit a plateau, and you have now a mechanism. You have some things you can go through, a thought process that takes you through what do I do if I am hitting a plateau. First, we kind of process where we are, what are we doing. We process why we're doing this, what our goal is, what our plateau is. Okay, I'm plateauing on my weight, on my blood sugars, all those different things. And then we kind of go through the process and say, okay, what do I think is causing it? Okay? What do I think is causing it? Is it metabolic adaptation? Am I in a stress situation right now? Am I overeating during my eating window? Am I doing a good job of nutrient, or have I been doing the same routine over and over? And then we have a mechanism or mechanisms to be able to combat that. And in all of that, as we are working on putting our diabetes in remission, I want you to remember that you have unlimited potential. Unlimited potential, that's right. Because at your fingertips, right now, within you, you have the ability to chart your metabolic destiny. You can make changes in what you do, how you do things, to be able to change your trajectory. In the past, you may have made some decisions, and you can't change those decisions. They are what they are. You may have had some complications from those decisions. They are what they are. But at this moment, you can make a decision that charts the rest of your metabolic health. And you have unlimited ability to do that. And that is given by our Triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the blogs and the podcasts and the shows because we want to change your mindset. We want to give you a growth mindset and take you away from that fixed mindset that says all you have is what you see right now. No, we can be better. We can make changes. We can go in a different direction. That's the entire idea behind education. Changing the frame. Changing the story that we're telling ourselves. And then we empower. We empower with the tools, just like we learned right now on, okay, how do we get through plateaus? We learned the heat model. We learned the cope model. We learned emotional intelligence, how to eat mindfully, how to create a menu, how to create a type of food, right? The prototypic food that we shared earlier. All of those are with the intention of giving you power to make the change. So the education is great because we're shifting the frame, but now here's the tool that you need to be able to make that change. And then we encourage with the community that we are part of, that you are building. When you come on and you share your story, that builds the community, that gives encouragement, that gives richness, that gives ideas to the community. So you're an integral part of it. And so all of the empowerment comes through the platform. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. The success comes, I should say. That's the platform that we're built on. Remember, there are some things that will push you in the direction that takes you off of your plan. It's not hunger. It's given by the heat model. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. We eat because of the routines that we form. Not because we're hungry, but because of the habits. Because we go to the movies and we eat popcorn. Somebody comes over, we offer them coffee and and a muffin or a bagel. We meet somebody at the coffee shop and we eat, even though we just ate before. When we console people, we cook food for them. Right? It's just what we do. We also eat because of emotions. When we're angry, sad, depressed, anxious, all of those emotions can build up to such a point where it will overpower your decision that you've made about not eating or eating something or a type of plan that you're going to go on. We also eat because of access, because things are just there. If they're there, you're going to eat it. That's like the eggnog, right? Help me. Give me some advice, y'all. Because if I bring it to the house, guess what? It's all going to be gone. Right? So I don't want to do that. So help me, somebody. All right? So we eat because of access and we eat because of taste. And the taste, we're chasing what the food does for us, not necessarily what the food itself. But the manufacturers have created that bliss point, right? The perfect combination of sugar, salt, and fat. Put that together. When you eat it, you say, I can't just have one. I got to have some more, which is what they're looking for. But we're chasing it because it reminds us of something. It puts us in a space. It puts us in a certain thought process. That time when we went to that place and we ate that thing and we felt that way. The connection that I have with my dad when I eat pizza, hot dogs, and Chinese food in New York. We're chasing not the food, but we're chasing the thing it does, the connection, the memory, the calm. That's given by the heat model. Also, remember our pillars for reversing diabetes. We decrease sugar, we decrease insulin. We suppress our appetite and we reduce sugar. We decrease insulin, suppress our appetite, reduce sugar. And that's given by fasting. That's why fasting is so fascinating. Fascinating fasting. Say that fast. Right? And then our call to action, y'all. When you come on, when you show up, when you find us, if you're finding us now for the first time, if you've been with us, don't let the shows, don't let the challenges just go by the wayside. Don't just let them go on the shelf. Everything that we do, all the challenges that we do, they are with the intention of putting into practice the things that we're learning. That's what we're doing. And we'll be revealing the challenge for this month coming up here on our show, Dwain Woode MD. But make sure you're working through those challenges. Get somebody else. Work with them. Also, when you show up, tell your story. Let us know where you are, what successes you've had. Because when we see you succeeding, then we know we can do it as well. And if you're having challenges, if you're having some struggles, we can come alongside, come around you, support you, let you know that you're not alone, and we know we're not alone. And then invite somebody to the space. Let them know there's a place where they can go and they can improve their metabolism. They can reverse their diabetes. Don't just send them. Bring them. Share a link. Say, hey, let's go watch this together. We've got the playlists that are out there on the channel, right? Mastering Diabetes. How to reverse your diabetes. How to fast successfully. All of those are there, and you can have access to them. Come on over. There are over 1 billion people on the planet right now that have diabetes or pre-diabetes. You can be the voice of change. for your community, for your home, for your doctor's office, for your church, wherever you are, you can say, okay, we don't have to be like this. We can make changes. Everybody in our family doesn't have to die of complications of metabolic disease. Everybody in our family doesn't have to have a heart attack. Everybody in our family doesn't have to go on dialysis. We can make a change, and you can be the voice that starts that. Yep. All right. So invite people on. Unlimited potential is what you have. You can make a difference. I'm always excited when I get here to hang out with you, to hang out with you all, because you are my community. And I love being in this space. I love the conversations we have. I love all the interaction that we have. And I love to see when we get benefits. We'll be checking in again tomorrow. Join us for our check-in. Join us on Saturday night at 9 o'clock for videos from the vault. And then on Sunday morning at 6 a.m. Central for This Week in Review. We'll see you tomorrow in our check-in. As I always say, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. Good night.